We've got barbecue back here. You're all invited. Welcome to the Sloopcast. How are you doing today, Kyle?
Oh, we're coping, Jared. We're coping, but we're here. How are you doing?
Once again, I really shouldn't have even asked you that, but it's just what I say at the top of the show, and I can't not do it.
Welcome to the dead, Kyle. How are you doing today?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got through that episode. We got through our Scarlet and Grade episode.
F's were handed out.
Lots of F's. Yes, lots of S. All right, but we're going to talk about our Collegiate Chaos games here. And boy, Team Chaos took many souls this weekend, Jared. Not just Ohio State.
It's not chaos.
Many others.
Just
many.
It's two versus three. It's not technically a chaos. Just going to toss that out there.
Yeah, but that's the way they lost. But either way, we're not going to dive deep back into that again here. So either way, let's go right into it. We're just going to go in order of where they were ranked in the previous week here, and we'll just go down the line here. So we'll start with Georgia. Struggled a little bit in the first half, but in Georgia fashion, what we've seen all year, Jared.
Yep.
They finally decided to play football and take care of business against Georgia Tech.
Yeah, Georgia looks super beatable right now. No one in college football is great.
Nope.
That or everybody's kind of good. I don't know if like the transfer portal is starting to. It's the former Jared. We might just, because of the transfer portal, we might just be seeing a bit more parity in college football. I mean, or maybe just everyone sucks. I don't know the answer to that yet. I don't think it's fair or even possible to say that at this point. That's a thing we'll have to re-examine in a couple years.
Yep.
But also the transfer portal also leads to everyone sucking. Because all of a sudden you're not as deep as you once were, and because you're losing your backups to the transfer portal, we might be getting more parity in college football. So it might be both.
Mm-hmm. All right, next game, TCU did not have issues with Iowa State. 62-14 in that game, Jared.
Yeah, we've been asking TCU to win a game big all year, and
finally they did.
For the second time. But against the team that they should have absolutely decimated, and they finally did it. So,
yep,
that's all right. Really helping their case for a playoff spot, but maybe wasn't even needed based off of all the chaos that happened this week.
Yeah, and who didn't help their case with their playoff shot and pretty much eliminated them. LSU losing to a really bad Texas A&M team, 38-23.
Yeah. Texas A&M's playing better. Given all the young players that they were playing this year, it kind of makes sense that they would just sort of improve as the year went on.
Jimbo saved his job.
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
But by which I mean they couldn't afford to pay him out.
Exactly. Probably the second biggest game of the weekend here, USC and Notre Dame. Notre Dame was hoping to play spoils here, but USC takes care of business and beats Notre Dame 38-27.
Yeah. Kyle, a couple of weeks ago, we said if USC wins out, they're in because they have an incredibly hard and incredibly tough road to hoe. And they're doing it. They're two games into that 3-game stretch that we said they needed to win out. And they're doing it.
Absolutely. And now, they beat UCLA, now Notre Dame.
Yes.
Now they're looking
Austin,
for
Utah.
Now they're looking for their revenge against Utah here, which I believe, if I'm looking at the early Vegas odds, just a 2.5-point favorite for the Trojans. But if you go of any predictor here, like I'm looking on the one on ESPN real quick, They have Utah in their matchup predictor as Utah by 61%. So we'll see.
By the way, I know Ohio State fans are in two categories right now. Either Ohio State has no chance of getting into the playoffs and they don't deserve to, or, Ohio State might be able to, and we'll talk about that in detail later, but
Yep. Yeah, let's get through the games.
the fact that USC is so far down is to Utah in the predictor, maybe some pause for hope.
Yep. All right. Going through the rest of these games, Alabama takes care of business against Auburn. Clemson losing to South Carolina. So that this eliminates Clemson's chance to potentially try to backdoor their way into the playoffs. And they had things going for them. They had Texas A&M losing, and then Oregon losing, which I'll say here next here. But yeah, they lose to the Gamecocks 31-30.
Yeah. Clemson's been painfully average this year, and South Carolina all of a sudden looks good. I mean, it's too late to do anything with that, but all of a sudden they look good.
Yeah. And then Oregon trying to get their way back into the playoff discussion, not happening now after they lose to Oregon State 38-34.
Yeah, I mean, Oregon was already out of the playoff discussion when they lost last week, but yeah, it's
this will do it.
Again, we said Ohio State needs a ton of help, and they're Clemson, Oregon,
LSU,
Notre Dame, LSU. If Notre Dame had won, that certainly would have helped, but here we are.
All right. Tennessee wins big. Penn State wins big over Sparty. Kansas State, who will be playing TCU, wins by 20 over Kansas. Washington wins big over Washington State. Utah wins big, who plays USC, against Colorado big. Florida State beats Florida 45-38, which Florida State, kind of similar to like Notre Dame, wasn't all that great to the beginning of the year, but Florida State's really coming on the end of this year.
Yeah. Good for them. They're figuring it out. Kind of like FSU may get a New York 6 game, or New York. I always do that. New Year's 6 game.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, the ACC is the ACC right now.
What are they? What is the second best team here? Florida State or UNC? And if UNC loses to Clemson this weekend, that would put Florida State as the second best record. So, yeah. You're right.
North Carolina did also lose this week to North Carolina State.
They lose in double. They also lost, to NC State in double overtime, 30-27. Let's see, and that further hurt Clemson's chance too. Even if Clemson won, they would have played UNC, who lost, and then if Clemson beat UNC again, and then they'd be unranked, Clemson would have I don't think they would have anybody on their schedule who would have been ranked.
Yeah.
But either way, I digress there. UCLA beats Cal 35-28 in a close one. Tulane beats Cincinnati, where Coach Fick is now heading up to Wisconsin now, 27-24. And just to finish up the rest of the games here, Ole Miss loses to Mississippi State 22-24, but Lane Kiff is staying in Ole Miss, it appears. UCF beat South Florida in a close one, 46-39. Texas beats Baylor, and Louisville loses to Kentucky to wrap up our top 25.
All right, Kyle, let's get right into her. Let's get the tier list up.
All right. It should be fun, shouldn't it? All right. All right. So let's start with the B tier here, Jared. I want to start with the B tier.
OSU to M, I will die on this hill. Absolutely not. They're a single loss team. And by the way, and you can be like, oh, but how they lost. That's half the teams on this board right now.
Yeah. Clemson and Oregon down off of the B tier. LSU has 3 losses. Get them out of here. So now, yep. So Alabama goes up to A. Ohio State goes down to A. I would move those all over, and I would put for week 13 here, I'd put USC up there. And if we're going to put in order here, I'd put Ohio State over Alabama right now as the last spot.
Yeah. Kyle, if USC loses to Utah, are they in the playoffs?
Yes.
A tier should only be OSU, Austin says. I don't completely disagree with you, Austin.
I don't either, because there's no way. Well, there is a way that Alabama can get in, and that's why I think they should stay in the A tier. I disagree. I don't think they should, but there is
no.
Okay.
Georgia's in no matter what happens. Michigan's in no matter what happens. TCU is in no matter what happens. And I think you may not agree with me on that, but I think TCU is in no matter what happens.
All right.
Austin says TCU isn't in no matter what happens. Even if TCU and USC lose. But 2 of USC, TCU, OSU is in no matter what happens.
100%. It's down to 5 teams. It's down to 5 teams, and 2 of those spots have been taken already. Georgia, Michigan. Exactly what
Kyle,
Austin said there.
Do you 100%? Do you 100% believe what you just said, that this is down to only 5 teams?
Yes.
Okay, then we should not. Then we should not have Bama. Then we should not have Bama in the A tier. Is my only point.
Okay. All right. So, is there anybody else that should be there in the B tier? Purdue could be a conference champion. Utah could be a conference champion.
We're not putting Purdue in B tier, Kyle. Over my dead fucking body, I will not disgrace B tier with Purdue. I think we can move Utah up there.
Toledo there. Toledo could be.
We're not putting. Stop it. I know this is a bad take right now, but being a younger fan born in 2002, I've never seen this rivalry be overly competitive. So am I wrong for saying maybe we needed this to happen so we can come with more fire in the future?
I was hoping that's what happened last year.
Yeah. For the sake of the rivalry, yes, this is good for the rivalry. The rivalry has never felt more intense. That being said, fuck Michigan. I never want to see them win. Ever. And if that means downgrading the rivalry a tad, then downgrade the rivalry a tad. Because I hate Michigan more than I love the rivalry. And does that in turn make the rivalry great? I don't know. This isn't a philosophy class. But this does make the rivalry better. If you want to call that a silver lining, if you want to say that I'm in the negotiating phase of my morning, you can say that, and I'm not even going to tell you you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But
So
fuck
Buckeye
Michigan.
So going along with what we have here, Buckeye Matt has a question here. He says, surely we get in if USC or TCU loses, but what happens if they both lose? Do we still see 2 SEC teams and Big Ten teams in the college football playoff? If the committee stays true to what they have been doing, that would mean the rankings would be Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama.
Surely get in if USC or TCU lose, but what happens if they both lose? Do we see 2 SEC 2? I think TCU stays in. And the only way TCU is if, thank you, Spikes. Spike says, unless TCU gets blown out. I agree with that. Austin says agree. Michigan is in, Georgia is in, TCU is in if they win or USC loses. USC is in with a win. OSU is in if USC or TCU loses.
Okay, all right. Let's say.
I think it has to be USC.
Okay, hold on. Let's say hypothetically here, TCU loses. Okay, let's just say they lose to Kansas State in the Big 12 championship. Okay,
unless they get completely blown out.
Hold on. 12-1 TCU, not a conference champion, and a 10-2 Alabama. Okay, looking at the schedules here, for the wins here, Alabama would have exactly 1, maybe 2. We'll see where Mississippi State is. 1, maybe 2 top 25 victories, and both of them barely in the top 25. Okay. TCU has 2 as well. One sharing the same common opponent as Alabama, that being Texas, but they also have the 1 victory over Kansas State, who then, and hypothetically here, loses in the conference championship too. So if you're comparing apples to apples here, it's pretty much the same. So I'd give the edge to TCU based on record then. So I don't.
Florida says
I don't see Alabama getting in at all here. Even if TCU lost, but even if
to echo what Austin said, I don't even know why we're discussing it.
Yeah.
Fuck Bama. Florida Buck says that was a shellacking at home. If we lost close, yeah, but that was embarrassing. If Ohio State had lost close, then I don't even know if they're not in the top 4 right now.
Yes, I know rule number 12, Austin, but they've let a 2-loss team in before.
No, they haven't.
I thought they have. Did they not?
No, sir. There's never been a 2-loss team make the playoffs.
Okay, I stand corrected. I thought there was one.
I thought LSU. I think LSU had a real chance this year if they beat Georgia and didn't lose this week, but they did lose this week. I think they had a chance.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
so. Yeah. So it's down to 3 teams for that final 2 spots. Yes, 100%. Then
I really have a hard time seeing TC, and again, unless it's a total shellacking, I have a hard time seeing TCU not get it. And by the way, I do think that the committee, and this is why you watch football games, this is why you have people looking at it, we do need to also acknowledge that, does the committee really consider Ohio State losing as big as they lost? Because a couple of those touchdowns were just some long plays at the end. Do they really see it as a 20-some point game? Do they or don't they? I think that's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
They had 2 chunk plays at the end. Very tight going into the 4th. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So
if Michigan were 2 and we were 3, do we even drop out of the top 4? Yes. Yes, we do. I think I think if this is a close game, I don't think if it was like 2 versus 3 or 3 versus 2 would matter. It was very tight going into the fourth. I think Ohio State drops to number 5 no matter what happened, but then it would have created like so let's say Ohio State loses by 3 points on a last second Michigan field goal. Let's say that was what happened. Ohio State still probably drops to 5th, but like then TCU has to win their game. And right now I'm not convinced they do have to lose their game. And maybe they're at number 4 and maybe in 4 or 5 or 4. But I think Ohio State has a much easier path into the playoff if they had lost like in overtime, right?
Yeah.
If they had lost in overtime, sure. Because like, USC, and the USC apologists on the committee are like, hey, USC's only losses in overtime, right? Yeah. Then who is 3? TC. Wait a minute. In what scenario, Austin? You're missing a team. No, I'm not. I'm saying that I don't think USC would have jumped Ohio State. I'm saying it's possible. I don't know.
So.
Oh, you're not talking to me. Okay.
So worst case scenario for Ohio State. Best case for Ohio State, USC loses, they're in. I think if USC loses, they're in.
I agree.
But then the question is going to be, TCU loses, then you have 1 loss TCU and a 1 loss Ohio State, neither won a conference champion. Then if you then compare schedules, I think you got to give the edge to Ohio State because of their teams that they've played and their top 25 wins. TCU
has a really nice resume of wins, if we're being honest.
Well, that's what I was just.
What's going to hurt us is that we lost by so much. Sandman, I agree. In the weeks leading up to the show, we had talked a lot about could Ohio State and Michigan both make the playoffs. And I said that a close loss could very easily make that happen. The question is, how does the committee see the Michigan Ohio State loss? Mm-hmm. Do they see it as a 10-point loss, or do they see it as a 20-point loss? You know what I mean? But at the same time, they pulled away in the last 7 minutes. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was a 23-point loss. I understand that that's what it was on the scoreboard, but like a couple of those touchdowns were just sort of poured on by some long plays at the end. Does the committee care about that? And I don't know. I'm not saying they shouldn't care about that. I'm not saying that. Garbage time after we gave up. Right. But do you think you get points knocked off? Do you lose credibility for giving up?
Yeah.
And by then, at least for what we saw, seemed to like guys gave up. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's either their validation to keep OSU out, or it'll be neglected if they want to keep us in. Either way. Yeah.
All right, so
Clark Phillips could send Ohio State to the playoffs is a funny thing we thought would be happening in a different way. Yeah. I think it would have been really nice to have him on the team right about now. He gets the game clinching pick guaranteed. I hope so.
Yeah. All right. And so to recap here, so in A tier, in order, we have Georgia, Michigan, TCU, and USC. Ohio State as the lone A tier, meaning that these are the teams or the team that has a chance to make the playoffs. Then the B tier is good teams that can make spoils here. That's on the outside looking in, but can make some noise. And then
yes, Spikes, that was the butthole game. Is Ohio State has to go through Georgia, then Michigan if they get in likely. Yeah.
Yes.
And Georgia is better Michigan. Georgia is just a better version of Michigan. And Kyle, Austin, the entire server, we all talked about how we think Ohio State's a better team than Michigan, but God, we really hate the way things match up. We really hate the matchup. Georgia's a better version of Michigan. I don't know if Ohio State makes a lot of hay against Georgia either. But I think this is a really good Michigan team. And I think they actually match up really well against Georgia. I do think Georgia's the better team, but it doesn't mean that Michigan can't win one.
Yep.
Maybe if JSN and Trey are back. I mean, yeah. Who knows?
I mean, there's a good month here. Got a good month to get healthy.
By the way, how many Ohio State fans are deleting tweets if Ohio State does make to the playoffs and then starts winning games?
Oh God, how and right
guys,
before we hit record,
hold on. We need to ask the chat. We need to ask the chat. Don't ask the chat, Kyle.
All right, fine. I'll ask the chat. All right, with the loss here, guys. All right, you ready? You ready? If even with that big loss that happened this weekend, if Ohio State beats Georgia, Michigan beats TCU or USC, whoever they play, they meet each other in the national championship game, and Ohio State beats Michigan in the national championship game, will this big loss just be swept under the rug, be all forgotten? People would be deleting tweets and all that.
I hope they don't get deleted because I want the team. I don't want the team to forget. Sam, the tweets aren't going to help that. They'll remember. They'll remember.
Mm-hmm.
The tweets don't matter. I still want him fired. No way you believe that. There's zero chance.
You're kidding yourself.
Troll poster. He's a troll poster. He's such a troll.
We all become Utah fans this weekend. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. It's this instantly becomes the Virginia Tech, just the funny thing that happened on the way to the championship.
Yeah.
Say TCU defeated Michigan or USC or whoever, do we still, and Ohio State beats Georgia than TCU. Yeah.
How
I mean, it's still a national championship, right? You still have it's a fucking national championship.
If that were to happen, Jared, if that were to happen.
By the way, I just want to say for the record, I don't think Ohio State can beat Georgia.
Ohio State beats Michigan in the national title. Would that be the best win in Ohio State history then?
I don't know. The Bama win in the first playoff is kind of huge.
The best win in the rivalry. Let me clarify that. The best win in the rivalry. Because nothing it's
literally a national title.
That game is for all the bragging rights. It's all for the national title. It's gotta be then.
It's gotta be. It's gotta be. It's literally for the national title. It's gotta be. It's not for an opportunity at a national title. It is the national title.
Yep. A lot of ifs and chaos that needs to happen, but we'll see. Team Chaos is loved in November so far.
Yeah, for sure. Man,
Pac-12 title will be on a Friday.
Yeah. It always is, right? I can't take two of yesterday's in one season. We weren't even discussing that as a possibility. Don't even bring that up. Yep. Don't even bring that up. I don't even want to think about it. I don't even want to think about it.
Friday night on Fox. Yep, and we will cover that game. We'll cover that game on if you come and join us on the discord.theswoopcast.com and become a Patreon. you can listen to us on Wednesday as we record, and we will talk about all the
Austin.
championship games.
Austin asks, Jared, counter question. If Ryan Day loses to Michigan again in the playoffs, in this case, the national title game, do you fire him? And man, a lot of you said yes. How you going to fire a man for beating Georgia and going to the national title?
You guys are silly. That's why they're slip cats.
How you going to punish a man for going to the national title game? That's cuckoo bananas.
Yeah.
By firing him. Duh.
All right. I think that's it, Jared. I know it's a lot shorter in terms of teams to talk about here, but I mean we're down to the wire here. We are done with the regular season here. Going to talk about the conference championship games on our next episodes here, and then it's bowl season.
What's going? I think we're just not doing a Thursday episode this week.
Or maybe we'll release the Collegiate Chaos, or not Collegiate Chaos. The picks on Thursday.
Yeah, we might just do we might just or not. I don't know. We'll figure it out. If he loses next year, is his job at risk? Yeah, no, he's done.
Yes.
He's done. If he loses again next year, he's done. I mean, unless you're telling me that's a scenario in which he also won the national title, in which case, no. National title buys you a lot of patience. Can we get an OSU basketball primer on Thursday? No, that'll have to come later. I don't feel mentally prepared for that at the moment.
Speaking of that, this Wednesday, Ohio State heading on over to Durham to take on Duke, which is kind of
no, Sandman. A national title buys you a lot of leeway.
Just kind of deja vu, because last year Ohio State lost to Michigan and then played and beat Duke. Will we see that again this year? I hope so.
I hope so too.
But it is in Duke here, so did they play at Duke last year? I can't remember. No, it was at Ohio State, wasn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like last week we spent all day. We spent like I don't know, 40 minutes or more in this chart, but with only 5 teams, there's not a lot of scenarios to go over.
No. Really it's down to those 5 teams. Yeah, just like Jared said. So
I'm gonna go back to this view. Y'all are seriously telling me that if Ryan Day wins the national championship this year but loses to Michigan next year, that they're going to fire him? Is that honestly what you're trying to tell me? Not you, Austin. Not you. Other people. Crazy bananas.
Well, there it is, Jared. It is official now. Let me grab it real quick.
Super double official. Fick. I assume he's talking about Fick. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Good for him. I'm honestly surprised. I didn't think he'd take that job. $6 million, is that all? It is a good job. I'm just, and I guess it's not.
I'm happy for him.
No. I'm happy for him too.
I know a lot of people are wanting Fick to come to Ohio State, but it's tough because you look at like what he did or didn't do when he had the chance to step up and try to get that job and didn't. And again, he grew and become a better coach since then. But I mean, being the head coach at Ohio State versus most other places, it's so different.
If Day loses to Michigan next year with no natty, Ohio State will take him from Wisconsin after 1 year. I would put if the mothership calls, Fick goes home. If that's what Ohio State wants, If the mothership calls, he goes home. They will not fire Day. If they are you talking about if they lose to Michigan again next year? Because they might. Three in a row. Go 1-3 against Michigan. I feel like I'm fending off fans wanting to fire him as of now. And I'm trying to beat those people off with a stick. I can't imagine what would happen if he lost again next year. I don't think they care. I don't think they care as much as some of us think about football. I don't know who the they is in that sentence. I'm saying the opinion of fans is different than, exactly. Ohio fans are, forgive the pun, very fickle. They are reactionary. They are emotional. Way more so than not just the administration. I said no pun intended, Austin. Way more than the administration, way more than the players. I always love it after every loss. Everyone's like, and now all the recruits are going to decommit. No, they're not. Players are not nearly as reactionary as fans are. Mm-hmm. They understand that sometimes you lose football games.
Yeah, so there's a lot of talk going on right now, Jared, about since the game, since Michigan beat Ohio State, there's been two Ohio commits, or two commits from the state of Ohio that's committed to Michigan, and then trying to make it seem like, the world is falling and this and that. Neither player had Ohio State offerings, though.
Yeah,
neither one did, and then you could argue maybe they should have.
Hey guys, can I offer a counter narrative to that?
They'll take the rivalry more serious than somebody who's down in Florida or Texas,
guys,
or California, wherever.
Guys, can I offer that maybe one, as Kyle said, those guys weren't like sought after. Well, Ohio State was not a realistic option for them for one reason or another. Can I toss out there that maybe this has more to do with Luke Fickell not being in Cincinnati than it does with Michigan winning? Cincinnati has long been like the second option for a lot of Ohio kids. With Fickell not being there anymore, that means more Ohio kids are going to go play for Indiana, Michigan State, and Michigan. Those kids who didn't quite get enough looks from Ohio State, where a lot of them were going to Cincinnati, and more of those kids are going to go to Pitt. More of those kids are going to go to Michigan and Michigan State and Indiana and Wisconsin. A lot of them are going to go to Wisconsin. There's going to be a lot of Ohio kids go to Wisconsin.
We'll see.
Do we scout for more Ohio-based players or stay with the national-wide recruiting? You have to do both. And by the way, Ryan Day has coached the state of Ohio more than Urban Meyer ever did. He already has.
So here's the thing. I talked to a good buddy of mine on Sunday here, and he was talking about, we need to recruit more in state here. We need to keep the players in Ohio, just like Tressel did. And I said, and you want to go back to the kind of recruit classes that Tressel had, especially towards the end of his tenure? No. You need to still recruit well, which he has been. He's been recruiting still really well in state, keeping top talent in Ohio. Yeah, once in a while he does lose some to out of state or wherever, but he's keeping the vast majority of.
Those have almost all been offensive linemen, and that's been corrected.
Yes, that has been, yeah. But no, he's keeping that talent in the state, and he's going elsewhere to get the top talent. I mean, yeah, I don't need to say
more Hartline and Johnson than Day, in your opinion. I'm sorry, have you not seen the quarterbacks?
Yeah.
Do you really think that's Urban's son-in-law doing that? It's not. Because it's not Urban's son-in-law that's bringing in those quarterback recruits. Rayola's not coming to play for Urban's son-in-law. Ohio State has had significant issues recruiting corner and offensive line. Raiola needs to start in 2024, by the way. He might. I think it's a decent possibility that McCord is one and done. They've had issues recruiting corners. They've had issues recruiting offensive linemen. They've replaced both of those coaches, and it takes a year to get the recruiting going. As literally every recruiting expert has ever said, it takes, recruiting's about relationships.
Mm-hmm.
You can't show up and be an amazing recruiter day one, with rare exceptions. And some of you are like, Heartline did it. Heartline was a grad assistant at the university already. And while they're not supposed to talk to recruits, be an adult about it. Be an adult about it. You know what really happens.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like more balanced classes. I'd take a few less wide receivers for a couple cornerbacks or offensive tackles. That's not how that works, though. This isn't a draft. You can't be like, well, let's spend some more first rounders here versus there. You just go get the best guys in the country.
Yep.
I mean, blue chip guys. That doesn't change. That doesn't change the equation at all. It's not a draft. You don't choose who you pick your first rounders on. Giving up an extra great wide receiver isn't going to get you an extra great offensive tackle. But yeah, I get what you mean. We can get both. You have to get both. Again, they've replaced the cornerbacks coach. They've replaced the offensive line coach. They're trying to remedy those situations. You can't win big games if you can't control the trenches 100%. Until you can continuously recruit the O-line, you're going to continue to struggle in big games. Yeah. And by the way, I got bad news for y'all. That's not a problem that's going to be remedied next year. The offensive line isn't going to be magically better next year just because Fry's there. It takes time to recruit, especially offensive tackles. In fact, it may be worse. Yeah, it's going to be worse. The offensive line is going to be worse next year. Paris and Dwander gone. Both elite tackles. Yes. Offensive line is going to be worse next year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not going to be Fry's fault. Just tossing that out there. That's not going to be Fry's fault. In fact, it'll be a huge credit to him. Is anything going to be better? The wide receivers will be better.
Healthier
because
running backs. Healthier running back.
Yeah, because you're not losing. I mean, you're losing JSN, but you didn't have JSN. So
we'll cover more about
the wide receivers will be better. The running backs should be better.
Jared and I were talking about this a little bit here.
No, McCord will not be used in an option more. No,
we'll definitely.
CJ Stroud is athletic. Day just didn't want him taking hits, and I agree with Day. Do we have a shot in the shithole next year? I don't know. It just depends. Oh, Ann Arbor. Yeah. Michigan's losing a ton of players this year. They will also be resetting. And you guys talk about recruiting. Ohio State recruits better. Well, sometimes that doesn't matter when there's only 22 dudes on the field. They did not lose a lot last year. They lost a lot last year on the defense. They recovered fine. They didn't lose shit off of their offense, including that offensive line, which is what makes that team. Ben Chrisman will be an All-American next year. That's possible. I wouldn't bet money on it, but I wouldn't bet money against it. Being an All-American's tough. They lost a lot last year on the defense. Their offensive line makes that team. That is one of the best offensive lines that I've seen in college football in a little bit. That's a tremendous offensive line Michigan has. Tremendous. How do you talk to recruits we had out after the game yesterday? What do you say? Genuinely curious.
I do have information about that. I'll share that in our recruiting channel here, Sandman.
Yeah. That's not a huge concern for me. Again, players, because I know we lost 2 already. Not really. The quarterback and the running back. The quarterback, that was and I need you to look at the screen. If you're not looking at the screen right now, Sandman, or everyone watching, I need you to look at the screen right now. That was a mutual decision. A mutual decision. And read into that however you please. And by the way, whoever the 2023 quarterback is, it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't fucking matter. They'll bring in DJ Uiagalelei and he can be our Jagger LaRue of the year. Because that's exactly all he would be. It's going to be McCord, then Raiola for 3. Probably. That's what I would put my money on, Austin. We'll always have elite options at quarterback. No, we won't. That is such a new phenomenon. If not, it'll be Brown for 1 and Raiola for 2. That would be difficult because Brown would only be... No, he'd be a third-year player. Yeah, I just messed up my math in my head. Don't worry about it. Is DJ actually coming? I don't think so. But if he does, he's not starting over McCord. Do you guys think Stroud is staying? Oh, no, he's done. He's going to the NFL. He's potentially a 1-1. He's a top 5 draft pick. He's gone. He's definitely not transferring. There's no reason for him to transfer. Mentally, he wants to beat Michigan. Maybe. I'm not putting money on it. I think you're once again venturing into the bargaining territory of your morning by saying, well, maybe. You're bargaining. You're still in mourning and you're bargaining right now. You're trying to put a silver lining on the Ohio State loss is what you're doing right now. He is poised to be the first overall pick. And if not first overall, still a top 5. You were saying, Kyle?
So if you want to read more about the recruiting, I posted some things in the recruiting there, but I'll just in short, even though it sucked that Ohio State lost, but in the grand scheme of the recruiting front,
doesn't matter.
It didn't hurt.
Doesn't matter, guys. I already said it once. I'll say it one more time, then we'll end the show. Only fans get this worked up over losses.
OnlyFans,
yes. Onlyfans.thesloopcast.com. It's not a real thing, is it? It's not, but is it? Jared, what is your OnlyFans? I just said it. Jared has guys, we're moving this entire streaming operation to OnlyFans. Austin won't let me move it to Twitch, so I'm going to move it to OnlyFans. And, we'll see what happens. It's a little spicier over there. We'll see what happens.
All right. You got anything else, Jared?
Early prediction. I know there's not much to go off of right now. Where do we end up this time next year? Same place, playoffs. What's your thoughts? That is so dependent upon, first and foremost, the offensive line. That's all I got. That's all I got right now, is just to say it depends on the offensive line. That is the biggest risk factor to me. The defense should be really good. Hopefully some of the cornerbacks who are young right now age into really good juniors, or they pick up someone in the transfer portal, something, because they need some help at corner. But the linebacker should be really good next year. The defensive line should be really good next year. Safety should be really good next year. I have all the faith in the world at Kyle McCord. You're not going to lose anyone at wide receiver who actually played this year. Mayan Williams probably leaves, but you'll have Hayden a year older. You'll have Henderson a year older. I think the running backs will be in good shape. Fleming needs to go to the NFL. Evan Pryor, yes, Evan Pryor returning next year. We need to have that conversation. Not today, we don't. So I think the running backs will be in good shape. I think the wide receivers will be in excellent shape. The defense, I think, for the most part, except maybe at corner, isn't going to be in really good shape. The offensive line scares the shit out of me. So I think it really comes down to, can the cornerbacks step up and can the offensive line reload? That's the biggest questions for next year, but we have all of season to talk about that. Kyle, do you have anything in Kyle's corner?
No, I already mentioned about Ohio State playing Duke on Wednesday. Yeah, hopefully the Buckeyes can pull it off again this year. Yep, and Tuesday, yes, Tuesday. Team USA's got a must-win game against Iran to move on past the group stage.
Do you guys want to do a 2 p.m. social screen of the soccer game? Or do you want to do... I'll do it. It's fine. Hell, I have a meeting, but I'll still put it on for everybody. Or, and I'm just saying, this is going to, just from a time investment standpoint, it is going to... No. I'm saying this would replace Sloop Cats only. I'm not saying it would replace this weekend. Just from a time investment standpoint, those are your two choices, and I'll let you guys choose. Well, we don't have to choose right now. In fact, we need to end the show. Tonight's ending music will be brought to you by, all the reason to have a social screen to listen to it. The Floorwalkers. Once again, tonight's show will be brought to you by the Floorwalkers. The name of this song is How Far. So with all that being said, I'd like to encourage everyone to drink local beer, listen to local music, and of course, support your local podcasters. Once again, this is the Floorwalkers.